Well, good evening, everybody. It's a pleasure to be back. George Morgan here at your service. It's PSGL, it's Wednesday night, it's Spain tonight as well. Lots on the table, lots of battling. The title contest is still alive and kicking. And Jack, it's only taken us 10 rounds. We're on the 11th. It's all to play for.
Boromant goes on the inside and takes the lead on the final lap of the race. Now it's side by side between Boromant and Warner, but Boromant's got the inside.
A guest star here in this phenomenal race. Cameron Dowd looking to take P2 in his very first PSGL F1 PC race. Incredible to say the least. You see that Putin still lead. 1.5 seconds. DRS is the
Takes the lead on the final lap of the race.
Welcome back to PSGL Season 36, Round 3, F3 here in PSGL. I almost messed that all up, but I am your commentator, Mr. Alex Heron, your very humble commentator, in fact. Mr. Alex Heron, that's my name. And I am joined by Mr. JGM or Mr. Josh Griffin Meeks.
No,
I got it right.
there's not an S. It's Meek. Alex should be doing this for years at this point, mate.
Meek.
Come on.
It is almost, I've realised it's almost like 3 years since I started doing commentary, which is crazy. I've already gone on a tangent. This is why I don't do the intro. But we're back here for Monaco for round 3 here in F3, Josh. And it's the Principality. It's the crown jewel of Formula 1. It's part of the Triple Crown. It's a fantastic circuit. Not for racing, but it's a fantastic circuit.
Yes, it's certainly a circuit, let's say that much. Of course, we're talking about Monaco here. It's certainly an interesting one. There's a lot to be won, a lot to be lost, and of course, needless to mention how important this qualifying session is going to be for all the drivers. We are currently going through a lobby reset due to a couple of settings being slightly incorrect. Thankfully, a couple of the drivers were able to point it out, so hopefully we're going to have even less lag as this beautiful featured game loves to present sometimes. But that's not the only track we've got on this calendar which can surprise a couple of the drivers with a couple of the technical challenges. As we switch over here to the calendar, you can see we're at round 3 Monaco for now, and then we're hopping over to Austria, Canada, Paul Ricard, Portimao, Azerbaijan, Zandvoort, Interlagos, and then Texas. I've decided to stop putting this behind a little wall for you guys to come join the PSGL Discord, but it would still be greatly appreciated if you guys all join the PSGL Discord to get yourself involved with the community. It's a fantastic community. They've even accepted the likes of Beard Alex here.
I mean, if you're going to accept me and you, Josh, then it could.
Yes.
We accept everyone.
Exactly. That's part of the beauty of it, isn't it, at the end of the day? But of course, you know, we've got drivers up and down this grid who are going to be looking to try and close up the championship gap. We have the likes of Nando Moreira now running out, almost ahead of the curve with the reserve driver of Modesto Mena in P2. Once again, looking to try and cause a couple of upsets. Is here on the grid today. We'll be racing in the AlphaTauri car. And then we've got, a couple more of these drivers which are looking to kind of stamp themselves a name. Riccardo Benzoni, another great example. And Jay Este is going to be hopping alongside him in the McLaren because, we've got a couple of the stewards' findings, and it's a short and sweet one after Belgium. But Richard Sproggis has been banned from the grid due to receiving so many time penalties and so much penalty points in such a short time frame. So he's not going to be able to complete this season 36 season, but he will be welcomed back for season 37. And for me, it's a bit of a shame because he's a very talented driver.
Yeah, we both like Richard. Obviously, we both had conversations with him. Obviously, he works with SRC as well. That work with PSG. It's a shame because we both love Richard, and we'd love to see him racing more in this season. But unfortunately, that won't be the case. But we have talented drivers still all through the grid. We've got a talented driver replacing him as well for the rest of the season. So, Monaco, Josh, of course,
yes.
The Principality, the home of your favourite Formula 1 driver, Charles Leclerc.
Of course.
Famously won this circuit every time he's raced on it as well in Formula 1 history. And we arrive here looking for a fantastic Grand Prix. But it's not about the Grand Prix a lot in Monaco. It's about the qualifying session. You know, I don't know the stats myself because I'm not the stat man. That's you down there. Sorry, the way my camera is set up on my screen is you are underneath me now, not to the right or left of me.
Kind of sus, Alex.
Kind of sus. But what I was going to say, Josh, is I think Pole has won a lot of races around Monaco. I can't think of the exact number myself, But in modern times, pole has usually meant you're going to pick up the victory. But the last 3 Monaco Grand Prix, especially in real life, have been weather affected, which has given us some very interesting Grand Prix racing, and I expect could see some more weather today.
Yeah, dare I say as well. I mean, I'll never forget the Grand Prix. Watching it back as a little boy, where Olivia Panis managed to pick up a podium.
Oh,
I mean,
he picked up the win.
Yeah,
he picked up the win.
Right, that race. I've got to say, if you finished in the top 3, doesn't matter which position, it classes as a podium in my opinion, because of the amount of cars which went on. But of course, we've had examples of this as well. Looking back to last season's E-Series, I mean, we had the likes of Dylan Warren, full wet racetrack. Everyone else went on wet tyres. He braved it on the intermediates, and he was able to make them work. And that's just down to the nature of Monaco. It could be such a beneficial track if you're on the right compounded tyre, and that is, of course, something all these drivers are going to have to take into consideration with the race as well. But we're only a couple minutes away from getting on track and getting started with this qualifying session. As I see a couple names in the YouTube chat, we've got Nathan Richards saying, "All right, lads." I was until Alex reminded me about Charles Leclerc's poor Monaco record, and Arthur with the word standings question mark. Of course, I could pull up the standings once again for you, Arthur, here. As we can see, there you go. Take it in. Take a big gander there. We've got we've got a good mix of the points in between there. I do believe we might have had even a couple of issues ordering them. But I'll tell you something, it'll be certainly one to keep an eye out for, as well as the constructor standings here as well. Aston Martin leading the way with Nando's great point results. It's certainly going to be one to keep an eye out for around this circuit. Now, as we mentioned, it's certainly a bit of a complicated one, isn't it? 19 turns, 7 to the left, 12 to the right. Speed trap just about coming out of the tunnel. Now, for me, there's been a little bit of discussion, which I've been somewhat interested in seeing. And a lot of it is based around what time of the day we're going to be able to run this race. A couple of the drivers wanted it towards midnight. A couple of them wanted it in midday. Personally, I would prefer the midnight one because there's no flashbangs coming out of the tunnel.
I think it's also prettier, personally, at night time. I think the main reason they don't do it at night is because of, I assume it's a safety reason, I assume. But we are racing. We are racing at midnight by the looks of it. It is nighttime here at Monaco. Now, of course, Josh, I don't know if you know this, but just so you know, the best way to enjoy a Monaco Grand Prix, a lot of these guys in these buildings you can see on the screen.
Yes.
A lot of these guys have GT Omega gaming chairs in their houses.
See, I heard quite a few of the F1 drivers as well use GT Omega gaming chairs to make sure they're comfortable in their sim rigs, and dare I say, there's probably not a better way to go about it. They are absolutely brilliant pieces of equipment. I've got one right now. Alex has got one as well, and we can firmly say they are some of the most comfortable chairs I've ever sat in my life. Lovely leather. It's beautiful. After a nice warm day, I walk into my room. It's nice cold leather. I sit down and I feel a million times better. But we do have to get underway with this qualifying session because we've already got a couple drivers hopping out of the pit lane on the soft compound tyre. Yeah.
Not a couple, Josh. We have about half the grid coming out here, more than half the grid coming out straight away. We do have a retirement to start off the session. Is that because of a qualifying ban from Mr. Reyes?
Yes, I do believe so. Of course,
okay.
Gone to the extra length now to try and clarify. It's not Reyes, it's not Black Box, it's Race. He wants it to be called Race, and that's going to lead us to some terrible puns, so I can only apologise in future here. But Alex, have you noticed something about this Monaco track which is a bit different?
Well, it's midnight, Josh.
Well, no, not only that, it's for sponsor boards.
Well, of course, Monaco recently has been sponsored by PSGL, GT Omega, and those two.
Sim Racing Centre.
Sim Racing Centre. I didn't know there were sponsor boards around, but
yes.
I remember now that there is.
You see those,
yeah.
that big yellow one with the word Sim Racing Centre on. There you go. You're welcome.
Bogdan Moldovan is going for his first lap around Monaco. Do you want to take us through, Josh?
Absolutely, can do. So heading up here into turn one, keeping it nice on the edge there, trying to get as close to the wall as possible. Again, it'll be one of those things where we're going to have to keep an eye out for potential damage drivers can pick up by tapping the wall here or there. Even if it doesn't necessarily break off an end plate of their front wing, it can still lose some temps just by having such a minute percentage damage, getting the car rotated in, heading into Mirabeau there. And now, of course, with Grand Hotel hairpin, sliding the car in beautifully, maybe a little bit too aggressive of a slide, but you can see him now looking to line it up out of Poirier. Just opening up that corner before approaching into the tunnel. Now, of course, these drivers can fully take this corner flat since These Formula 1 cars have just been getting more and more downforce, braking nice and late with 70 meter board, making sure he doesn't clip the rear tyre into the braking zone. Brilliant work. Heading up here to turn 12 to back, he's going to be flicking the car in, running it nice and wide to the wall, coming back into a swimming pool chicane, left, right, then of course over the Louis Chiron chicane before reaching Raskas. And something we're going to have to keep in mind, yes, it's 39 laps around here, but the laps are so incredibly short, especially when the drivers are pushing to the extent Bogdan Moldovan is. He's hugging the right hand side of the wall here to improve, and he gets a 1:08.3. And as much as I would love to turn around and say this could potentially be one of the best laps we'll see all day, there's still an ample worth of potential for these drivers to improve, as I do believe Riccardo Benzoni may have just clipped the inside of a ball there. And you can already see with that tyre popped off. He's got to make sure he does not do that in the race. It'll be critical.
Can I just say, that lap from Bogdan genuinely took breath from me. That was ridiculous. I've never seen a car drive around there that quick. And I also don't really ever see cars slide as much as Bogdan's did through that little bit of a really sharp left-hander, which shouldn't really be a corner anymore in Formula 1 because the cars are too big for it.
Well, it's the quickest way to get around sometimes.
The Casino Square, isn't it? Is what it's called.
Yeah, and I will say as well, around to the back, we will have to keep an eye out for drivers just tapping the wall on the exit, because it can be a beneficial bounce if it's on the tyres perfectly, or it could end up ruining your lap and just causing you a little bit of wing damage, which, as we mentioned, any form of wing damage around here is critical, and it will make the drivers punished, as we've still got more drivers trying to get through on a lap. But again, it's Monaco at the end of the day. We've got 20 drivers out on track looking to find a bit of space. It's going to be very difficult around these 19 corners.
Yeah, it seriously is, and I really think that that we're going to see some very close lap times here at Monaco, but also invalidation of lap times can still occur. You might not think, because of how enclosed this circuit is, you might think it is nearly impossible to invalidate, as Luis Valentina goes second fastest there, 1:08.325. But there is easy places you can invalidate, and that the chicane, Josh, I don't remember what it's called, but where you said you've got to avoid clipping your rear tyre.
Nobel chicane.
The Nobel chicane, thank you very much. It's very easy to invalidate there, because if you go slightly too deep, you cut the corner, and if you don't cut it enough, you don't gain enough lap time. Absolutely. So it's very much on the limit, as Mr. Rosenberg goes third fastest there, 1:08.341. Once again, Josh, I'm staggered with how close these drivers are in terms of lap times, but on a short circuit like Monaco, it makes it even more impressive.
Yes, realistically, we could be looking at maybe 2, 3, 4 temps separate this entire grid once they all end up getting a comfortable lap in where they're all pushing, but it all depends whether we're able to find that little part of the track. Of course, the Monaco circuit, it's 19 corners. It's, it's not a low amount of corners for a circuit, but it is only slightly over 2 miles long, if I'm not mistaken. So there's not really enough time for all these drivers to find that perfect bit of track, which is the reason why we're going to see a couple of cars run alternate plans here, such as Matthew Adler and Nando Moreira getting out before the rest of the field, as we ride on board here with Matthew rising up here into Massenet, the left-hander. It's so long, it doesn't feel that bad, but again, when we watch on board, you're kind of just a passenger flicking it through Casino, and then heading down here into turn 5 of Mirabeau, then into the Grand Hotel. Hairpin. It just flows so lovely, this circuit does, and it's fantastic getting to watch these cars go around. And again, we saw it before, haven't we? Sector 3 here, it can win you a potential pole position if you're able to absolutely ace it in every regard. Take Max Verstappen as an example from last year's Grand Prix in real life here. He managed to pull it out the bag in Q3 to stop Fernando Alonso taking pole position. So there's still a lot to be gained here for Matthew Adler on this lap. It's just how confident he feels in this Mercedes to flick it through the swimming pool section here, the Louis Chiron, and then of course heading up into Raskas, being late on the brakes, getting that car rotated in, looking to not clip the rear of that wall, but he's done it.
Tony Richet's crashed. Tony Richet crashed on the exit before Sector 1. Easy to lose it. That I was about to mention, Josh. I can't remember exactly what that corner's called. I'm sure you'll let me know in a second.
Casino.
But Casino, that has a bump on it. A very aggressive bump, which I believe goes underneath a... is it a bridge, or is it just a bump in the road? I can't remember exactly what it is, but there's a tunnel underneath there, I think, which is slightly higher raised, and of course they can't really shrink the tunnel down. So the drivers have to be careful of that bump, and the bump must have caught Mr. Richet out.
Yeah, of course. It's certainly something that back in the day, the Formula One cars didn't necessarily need to worry about. Back in the early 2000s, they didn't have to swerve off of a racing line to make sure they could get the car over. But because these cars are so much lower than the older generations of Formula One cars, because they rely on the ground effects, it's imperative they keep off of that bump. I'll tell you what. Let's ride on board with Nando Moreira here, who has just put a lap time in turn 7. But we'll show you exactly what we mean. On the left-hand side here, you can see that bump right there on the left hand side. It doesn't look like much when we're riding on board, but to a driver you just feel like you lose so much more grip by carrying it over the bump, and it causes you a whole loss of time. It's certainly something these drivers won't be looking to try and clip. As we see Tom Roberts here, I do believe he was out on a installation lap here, but you can already see he picked up an invalidation. It won't be the end of the world because he's still got full battery to go for another push lap, but when drivers like JST, another one of those drivers which was in hot debate for being a reserve in F3, with the pace to potentially risk it in the likes of F2 or maybe even an F1 reserve, certainly could be up there for a shout at pole, and Tom Roberts has dived it back into the pit lane.
Great lap from JST. Good lap from Daniel Parada, I think is how you say his name, I'm going to say.
Parodi.
Daniel Parodi.
Daniele Parodi. Right, we're going to get you there. We will get you there.
We'll get there eventually. Zelenkovic is up on his lap time as well, currently in P7. Let's see what his middle sector is looking like. He's 4/10 up, Josh, in the middle sector here. Mr. Zelenkovic, is there a chance of taking provisional pole here?
Williams is slightly in front of him. That won't help him. It might block one of his turning or braking points, but it looks like he's been able to navigate the final corner there brilliantly. How close is he going to get? He's going to beat it by 0.2 of a second, showing the constant track evolution here around Monaco. Certainly going to be something we're going to have to keep an eye out for the remainder of his lap as Valentino Labella hops up into P12. Certainly going to be looking for good things. Looking forward to this race. And of course, Louis Valentine sneaks into the 107s. Just barely by 1,000th of a second. Brilliant lap time from the F7R driver. We know a lot of these drivers on track at the minute are capable to put up a great lap time, and Lejean Rosenberg might be one of those drivers who could maybe upset the bunch a little bit and get his car on the front row, maybe even on pole position for this Monaco Grand Prix. For round 3 of season 36, you can see he's got to approach the line, hug him out right inside of the wall, and it's a 107.947. Brilliant stuff there from Lejean Rosenberg, and to think we've still got 8 minutes left for this track to improve, we can expect this lap time to drop down even further.
Yeah, Dimas is up as well. Currently only P10, but he's up enough to jump himself a few places. Great laps from Rosenberg, Valentine, and Zelenkovic, all bettering each other's lap times. That was ridiculous in terms of their performance. Let's have a look at Mr. Dimas here. In the Williams, across the line, goes night fastest, does improve on his lap time. Does the same lap time as Nando Moreira, up in 8th place. So, people that haven't set lap times yet, Josh, we haven't had a Matthew Adler lap time, or the man in second in the championship, Mr. Modesto Mena, in 20th place.
Yeah, certainly going to be something we're going to have to keep an eye out for, of course. The later they end up making these runs, the better the car will feel, the more grip it'll have on circuit. I want to keep a special eye out for Nando Moreira, thinking that he might be able to pull something special out of the bag. He might have been slightly compromised on that first lap. Perhaps he was running a little bit too much fuel as well. There's a lot of stuff which goes into making a brilliant lap time around Monaco. If you just carry a little bit more fuel on board, you can kind of start preparing yourself, because it's a very flowing track. We've established this already. Oh, well, lobby restart. Won't be the end of the world. Won't be the end of the world. We're going to be fine with that one. But again, Monaco is one of those circuits you've really got to get into the ebb and flow of it, haven't you? You've got to understand what corners are coming up. You've got to kind of place yourself in the car. You've got to have that level of immersion to prepare yourself for a lap, and that's something that a lot of these drivers are able to do thanks to their brilliant sim racing equipment, and maybe even thanks to a GT Omega rig, just helping you feel a little bit more of the feedback on the track. But we're going to see Alexander Dimas peel into the pit lane here, but I do believe that'll be one of the AlphaTauris starting their lap.
Yeah, one of the AlphaTauris starting the lap. Matthew Adler is about to go through the final couple of corners on his lap. Just gone through the chicane, going through Sector 2 now into the swimming pool section. One of my favourite sectors in Formula 1. I love this circuit. It's one of my favourite ones to race on in my casual time. Yeah, I'm a casual racer around Monaco, eh? Who knew? Matthew Adler coming around the final corner now to finish his lap time. Let's see where he can put this Mercedes. Can put himself up from 16th. He can only jump up to 13th. But that is his first lap.
You've got to think as well, there's still time to gain there. He had a massive slide on the rear coming through Raskas, which isn't ideal. You want to be looking at trying to get the car slid into this hairpin here at the Grand Hotel. That's where the cars really want to be able to just sort of slide the rear end in to get the car rotated around a little bit more so they can get a better exit, so they can start focusing on the second part of Mirabeau and heading into Portier to make sure they can get the best run possible. But it is lovely to see so many of you in the chat looking here at this and kind of giving us a bit of insight. So I'll tell you what, Alex, while we've got a couple of drivers going for laps, do you want to share a prediction with us?
Well, first of all, just want to point out that Modesto Mena is on intermediate tyres.
Chad. It's Chad behaviour.
I think he's going for a lap on inters, interestingly enough, just to point that out. Do I want to make a prediction for pole? I don't know at this point. It's so tight between the top half. And literally, you're going to need a couple of thousandths of a second to improve your lap time. I don't think I can make a prediction, Josh. I'm gonna abstain.
Oh
from
dear.
prediction making. I'm going to be a fence sitter.
You're boring.
I'm on the fence sitter as Modesto Mena has invalidated his lap time.
Well, I'm going to go out the way here and say Jay Este, the driver filling in for rehards for a remainder of his season provisionally here, is going to be able to clinch a pole position here. About the race, I'm not sure. We're going to have to wait and see for that one. But I'll tell you something which does look promising on the weather forecast. It does look like it's going to be dry.
The entire race?
Entire race.
Well, Lewis Valentin, currently in second place, has just gone purple in Sector 1 by almost 0.2 of a second.
He's a demon.
He is a demon on wheels. As is he going to turn, as the song goes? He's going to go through the chicane now, the swimming pool chicane. What's the middle sector like? He's a 10th up in the middle sector as well. The Aston Martin driver really pushing his car around this Monaco circuit. Almost
Come on.
At Monaco last year, we saw an Aston Martin on pole in Fernando Alonso. Are we going to see Mr. Lewis Valentin take provisional pole here at Monaco? And he goes on to provisional pole with a 107.845.
Brilliant
with
stuff.
3 minutes to go.
And we've also got his teammate coming across the line, Nando Moreira, moving up into P5. We've got a couple drivers in the pit lane, but you can expect them to start crawling out in just a matter of moments here to get another lap on the board, to get a little bit more prepped. As I do believe we've got Valentino Labella heading through Rascasse at the minute. You know, a lot of time can be gained in this final sector. He noticeably keeps off that curb in the last corner as well. It'll lose you a bit of traction.
Good lap.
And he's able to put himself up into P7. But again, it'll be more of what the other drivers are able to do because it's such a competitive lap time around Monaco. As we've got Aljat. Also, he's really starting to struggle, isn't he? Trying to keep the car on the rails, heading through the Nobel chicane, that clunky one where you've got to be mindful of that inside wall. Certainly going to be looking just to try and dive it back into the pits, maybe get another set of fresh tyres on, maybe go for another clean-up lap just to make sure he's able to get a solid lap time on the board, because at the minute, at 1:10 is not good enough. And it sounds very harsh to say because it's quicker than what we could do, but at the minute it's really not, is it?
No, it's really not, and it's not good enough to at least get himself into the top 10 for sure. So we've got both the Astons diving back into the pits. Have they got another lap time in them, Josh, to get out again? We've got about 2.5 minutes left on the clock when I last saw, as we head for what is the most exciting qualifying session of the year, the final laps of Monaco Grand Prix, as Mr. I can't say that name, Simone, is it? Simone?
Simone, yes.
Simone...
Viola.
In the Alfa... Nope, not that. In the Sauber. He's in the Sauber. That's the car.
He is in the Sauber car. Well done, Alex.
In the Sauber car. As he's going for his last lap of qualifying.
Absolutely.
I saved that.
Yes, sure, you say that as we got Valentino Labella retiring from the session in the pit lane. Doesn't think they'll be able to get back out on track to be able to improve a lap time. So Valentino's going to be looking at a P7 at the highest they could potentially finish. But with the track constantly evolving and with the likes of Violo, Dimas, Laminen, Bogdan Moldvan all looking to improve their lap times, you could maybe assume a top 10 finish could potentially be in jeopardy here for Valentino. But we see Violo now chucking the car through here. Purple sector 2 temps up. It's one of those things where we're going to just have to keep an eye on because those purple sectors will flash up almost every single time a car goes around. The grip here is exceptional when he gets to the last stages of qualifying, and that's something we're seeing here with Viola being able to dart the Sauber car through that final corner, and he approaches the line and he hops up into P6. Brilliant stuff there.
Great lap from the Sauber driver, jumps into 6th place. Modesto Mena not out of the pit lane, by the way, Judge, which means he's probably not coming out now. So he will start last. on the grid. And I don't know what the reasoning is. Maybe he wants to try and go from the back of the grid to the front, last the first challenge and all that. But a last first challenge around Monaco isn't the easiest thing. So Mr. Zelenkovic, he's matched his first sector time. He's about to head for the middle sector. He needs to find the time here. This is where you can find the time on your lap. But he's hit the wall. He's hit the wall, Josh, and he's abandoned his qualifying lap.
Yeah, and you would think he's only got 20 seconds to go for it as well, so he's not going to get the full opportunity to charge his battery if he wants to go for another flying lap. But of course, if he is able to cross the line, he'll be one of the very last drivers to be able to cross the line. He's only got 7 seconds remaining. It doesn't look like he'll be able to do it, and he knows it. He's pushing this Alpine car to the absolute end of the limits, but the checkered flag has fallen, and he won't be able to improve his lap time, so that comes down to Legion Rosenberg. He's 0.002 off the through, and now he's coming to the final sector. And he's not able to improve. The next up is Tom Roberts. Is Tom Roberts going to be able to shoot himself back up into pole? We've got a couple drivers in front of him who are also finishing laps, so we'll keep an eye out for them. We've got Nando Moreira finishing in P5. We've got the Williams car hopping up of Daniele into P4. But what is Tom Roberts able to do? The Shazoo driver just approaching the finishing line now. Where he's going to be able to find himself. Jumps into P5. Brilliant stuff. But again, we've still got so many of these drivers looking to improve our lap times. We've got another Williams car. I believe that's Alexander Dimas who's going to hop up into P12 there. And then we're going to have to look down towards the corner here. Is that going to be Tope or Alshat? It'll be Tope coming across the line first. He's 2 temps down in that middle sector. He rotates the car lovely through Raskas, approaching his final corner once again. Uses a little bit of curb. He's not afraid to use it, perhaps indicating he might have higher wings, but he's going to come across the line. Finish up P11, but of course his teammate could cause a couple of upsets here because he's sideways on the track coming out of the Louis Chiron chicane. That's not going to be ideal for those who are on a fast lap at all.
No, not at all. And also, it's now put... he's now been disqualified for parking in a dangerous location because Rosenberg was coming through, but Rosenberg's AI couldn't get past it, so it just stopped there. So that has added that. So, ladies and gentlemen, we have our pole man for this session, Lewis Valentin, 107.845, followed by Mr. Rosenberg, and then Mr. Timo Zelenkovic. Wow.
It's looking tough as well. To answer the questions in the chat, there weren't quali bans for Tony and Ricardo, or even Race. It was just a couple of incidents here and there, which caused them. We've had 3 accidents during that qualifying session. If they're pushing the car to that level in the race, it could be in for maybe a bit of a long weekend for a couple of these drivers. But of course, we've got Louis Valentin taking pole position by almost half a tenth there on Legion Rosenberg, with Timo Zelenkovic P3, Daniele Pirodi P4, Tom Roberts P5, Nando Moreira P6, Simeone Violo in P7, JSA in P8, Valentino Labella P9, Ivan Santamaria P10, Tope P11, Alexander Dimas P12, Bogdan Moldovan P13, Thomas Laminen P14, Matthew Adler P15, and then we've got Tony Roche, Riccardo Benzoni, who both had accidents, Reyes as well, who ended up getting a slight accident. I should say Race, my bad, I apologise. I've just got so used to calling you Reyes Race, I'm so sorry. And then Modesto Maida, who didn't come out in qualifying at all, with Aljat getting disqualified from that, but we will have to see how that's going to affect, well, overall, the qualifying standings, whether he'll be forced to start at the back because it was a disqualification, or whether he's going to get given back maybe a P16 on those who do have qualifying bans. It'll certainly be interesting to see.
It certainly will be, but as mentioned, we have a quick lobby restart to remove the penalties. But Josh, why we wait for this lobby restart? You know what I want?
No.
You know what I want?
Oh, actually, you was talking about this earlier before the start of the stream. SRC have got the new F124 setups on pre-order already, and I know you told me you wanted them.
That's true. I do want those.
Yes. But is that not what you was on about?
Well, I do want those.
Okay.
And maybe Yorick can hook a brother up, Yorick, you know.
Oh, stop begging. He's such a beg, honestly.
He's such a beg.
But
also, Josh, you can get yourself a lovely GT Mega gaming chair like myself and Josh have.
Absolutely. Right, beautiful, lovely, comfy. I'm not sure why I leaned this way instead of the other way. It would have made loads more sense. But
it would have done.
End of the day, none of this would be possible without our great sponsors at GT Omega and Sim Racing Centre. So, without further ado, we will have to chuck up a couple of ads, but we'll be right back with some more racing action as soon as they're finished. No, Alex, how many times have I told you? That's... Oh, we're back. Right, okay. As I was discussing with Alex there, the sim racing setups, they're brilliant. Sim Racing Centre. They're fantastic. To give you insight of what we was just talking about, Rehards, who qualified for E-Series with the joint quickest lap time, ended up doing it on a default esports setup that SRC provide. I mean, it's you know, you would think, right, okay, their setups might help me get 1 or 2 times quicker, but they're absolutely magnificent, to be honest with you. Even I can pull out a good lap time with them, and that really says something. I mean, it's no surprise when you've got the likes of Brendan Lay also working on them, making sure everything's in good order. You can even get a coaching session with them as well, if you feel like that would benefit you, heading into the long haul. But enough of the SRC, enough of the Bob content, because we've got a race to get underway, and we know how chaotic a Monaco race can be. But again, it's a double-edged sword sometimes, isn't it? We know how boring they can be in real life, but whenever it comes across to sim racing, we can see these battles be absolutely immense.
Yeah, because unlike in real life, there is no fear of death or destruction of property, which is the major issues with Monaco. And also, people just go for moves because it's actually more likely to you know, for it to happen. Yes. The power of slipstream in this game, no matter what circuit you're at, is super powerful.
Right. Okay, Alex, just got to pause you there. Nathan Richards, a 136 round Silverstone is not good. That's when I wasn't using the setup, my friend.
Is that what you did in the Commentators' Cup?
Yes. It was abysmal.
I would just like to point out he was also on a controller at the time.
For the first time in like 4 years.
Yeah. I think I qualified on the front row in that race. Just want to point that out. So.
Anyway, enough of you bragging about your lap times, Alex, because we know any one of these drivers here could beat you. Hands down, blindfolded. 100%. Brilliant. Yes, I mean, to be honest, Nathan Richards, he's not wrong. There is no worry about injury, death around Monaco, and a couple of these drivers might race, you know, with a little bit of determination in them.
Why have you quoted that?
Why not? It's a brilliant quote.
It is a good quote.
I'm going to plaster that on my wall behind me.
Yeah, I want it on a t-shirt.
Let's not put it on a t-shirt, just in case. But, you know, you do have a great point. There's a lot less to risk. You might be able to pick up a bit of wing damage here and there, but if you're confident that you're able to get a move done, maybe heading into the Novell chicane, maybe even coming out of Casino if you're on fresher tyres, there's a lot to be gained here, there, and everywhere. As we will get clarification once again, the race will be dry.
Yes, 100% dry. Which, in one sense, is good, because that means we're not going to have too much chaos.
Yes.
In the other sense, sometimes a wet, dry race can be quite fun around Monaco, because it adds people to a little bit of drama and a bit of interesting racing. But what's going to be interesting is the run down to turn 1 isn't very long. It really depends on how quick you get off the line, and also we're going to see where people can go for dive bombs.
Sorry, I've just had a text message from Jeff, or the person who voices Jeff.
Oh yeah.
Apparently he's watching the live stream at the minute, so hello Jeff. It's lovely.
He's a big fan.
But he's also just texted me, take it easy into Sandavot.
Yeah. No heroics into Sandavot, please. That's
So, how many drivers are going to listen? How many of them are watching at the minute? How many are going to take it easy into Sandavot? And how many of you decided to maybe shell one of your predictions? Because we want to hear the predictions for this race, which is about to get underway in a matter of moments here. Because realistically, I still feel like it could be up to almost anyone to be able to pull out a lap time here, to be able to really push the car and put a couple of drivers under pressure, because we know how much pressure can affect a driver if it causes a mistake around a circuit like Monaco or even Singapore. There's a whole lot of time which is going to be lost there. Given potential for damage as well, it could be catastrophic.
It could be. It certainly could be. We'll find out, though, in a couple of moments' time when we get the lobby underway. Please, I believe everyone is back in the lobby.
Yes.
20 drivers around one of the smallest circuits in terms of width size in the world. Maybe only next to
Macau. I would
Macau,
say maybe. But even Macau's got a very wide straight, and Monaco doesn't have that luxury.
Macau doesn't race Formula 1. Which, well, that'd be amazing. Why don't we race Formula 1 at Macau?
Because it's stupid. It's
I'd
dangerous.
love to see that.
No.
Let's do that.
No.
If this video gets 10,000 likes, we'll race around Macau in Formula 1 cars.
Honestly, you're such a bag, man. I hate you. I really do. But David Richards asks us a great question. Alex and Josh, is anyone bringing a spoon and not a knife to a gunfight tonight?
Are you getting the reference, Josh? Because I do.
No.
Okay, so in the latest series of Drive to Survive...
Oh, that's why, because I don't watch it.
Yeah,
right, okay.
Will Buxton said about Haas, and said, it's not like bringing a knife to a gunfight, they're bringing a spoon.
It can work. Captain America Shield's basically a spoon, and he does quite well for himself,
True.
doesn't he?
That's true.
Depends how big the
Will
spoon
Buxton,
is.
I think more of a Will Buxton quote, because Richards also said that I think Crofty should use my quote for his next race, but I think Will Buxton is probably the better.
He's probably got it trademarked, hasn't he?
He probably does already. Yeah, Will Buxton actually gets a lot of his quotes from me.
I thought he got it from the book you own.
Do you want me to get the book out, Josh?
No, because we've got a couple of drivers readying up in the lobby. So
Aww.
Unfortunately, I brought it up at the perfect time for the fans here, for the viewers in attendance to not be bored with your book. I can see you reaching for it. Put it down immediately. No. Bad, Alex.
Bad, Alex.
Bad, Alex. No.
I looked up the people that made the book, by the way.
Okay. Right.
And I have they do multiple of these, not just motorsport. They also do basketball, golf, and some other ones as well. So, you know, if this video gets 10,000 likes, I will get more of those books.
Honestly.
Nathan Richards loves the book. It's his favourite thing.
I'll tell you what, I might buy it in one day. He might just wake up with a parcel on his doorstep saying from PSGL. It's just the book, so he can sit through and bore himself.
He can have the book himself. He can read all the book.
No, chat. When I tell you do not want that book, you do not want it. It's absolutely abhorrent. It's disgusting. It doesn't even work. And let's say it shares facts over two same pages which are right next to each other.
Yep. And it's the same very interesting facts. The facts are all correct as of April 2nd, 2022.
Super Gaming, don't encourage Alex. We're not encouraging Alex here, Super. Please. Please. We don't need to get this to 10k.
Yes, it's 10k. Yeah, so not only will Josh read the book and buy it, he'll also race an F1 car around Macau. Now that's a promise.
How have we shifted from 50 grand to me living out a dream apart from the book?
Are you sure you want to race? Are you sure you want to race around Macau in an F1 car?
Well, I'd be going 10 miles an hour at a maximum, so yeah, it wouldn't be that bad for me.
So you get the double one with Charles Leclerc driving. So you sit in the back and Charles Leclerc drives at the front.
Don't do that. I'd absolutely brick it. I'd be screaming the entire time.
Could you imagine?
No, I'd be screaming. No chance. No chance. But yeah, I mean, while we've got this lobby getting boosted up as well, we do have a charity initiative coming up, Alex. I'm not sure if you want to explain a little bit about that before we jump into the game.
Quickly. Yeah, so on March 20th to March 21st, I will be running with Josh at occasions a 24 hours live stream of the fantastic game Sea of Thieves, where I'll be running probably a bunch of quests and funny challenges that I'm going to be setting up, and we're going to be raising money for the charity, which is very close to my heart, in Special Effects, who do a lot of support for gamers that have disabilities that can't play games. And as someone who would be very much upset and very depressed without games, it does a great work of giving everyone the ability to play games. So that's what we're going to be doing.
And if anyone's interested in maybe taking part, feel free, come and join the PSGL Discord, drop us an @ in the general chat. We'll be able to get you sorted out and maybe get you featured on the live stream as well. I'm sure it'll be a bit of good fun for everyone involved. Personally, I'm very much looking forward to it. I feel like it was a brilliant cause, and it's certainly something a little bit different from what I'd be used to. So, as Nathan Richards says, Alex W. It's always an Alex W at the end of the day, unless it's about his book, and then it's a big L.
Yeah, and if we raise a certain amount of money on the charity live stream, then Josh will have to buy 25 of the F1 book, and everyone in PSGL will get one. No, you have to send it to every F1 esports driver. Jarno Otmir will read this book.
We're not having Jarno Otmir recite this book. No. He doesn't need to know the helmet is the most important part of a driver's safety procedure.
He might not know.
He already knows. He does
He might not.
racing. He does racing. He knows, I'm sure. But we do have everyone in the lobby, as we can see. It is nice and dry. And of course, at night time as well. Monaco at night, it really just brings something else out, doesn't it? It's so beautiful to get to watch these cars go through. But again, it could mess up with a couple breaking points with the shadows. But we've got a little bit of a window here while the drivers get to pick their strategy. Alex, what strategy would you go for?
Genuinely, around this circuit, medium hard.
Okay.
I know it sounds crazy.
So you're on the board of not getting any wing damage whatsoever.
Yeah, I genuinely love Monaco, and that is the strat that's always worked. Soft tyres just don't last long enough, but we're going to find out now because we've got 5 lights going on at the Principality at the crown jewel of Formula 1, and we are lights out and away we go. And it's a good start from Lewis as he runs down into turn 1. Are we going to see any movement in the background? We saw a couple of places. We saw some wing damage. Oh, we saw a big crash. Oh, Tom Roberts is out of the Grand Prix. We have a virtual safety car here at Monaco on lap 1. And me and Josh, like when the Undertaker's streak ended, have got our hands on our heads.
Oh no, that's not the way it was supposed to go. Tom Roberts was going to be my pick. I didn't want to say it just yet in case the commentator cursed him, but apparently I've just willed it in with my own mind. Tom Roberts out of this Grand Prix into turn 1, getting tapped at the rear, and it brings out the virtual safety car here. But when is it going to restart? Are any drivers going to be able to pull away from the rest of the field? I'm already looking at the likes of Daniel Parodi, Nando Moreira, who almost had that second gap back. Surely they're going to have to find a brilliant opportunity here to get going once again, because we've got so many drivers bunched up in this pack. And of course, we've got Valentino Labella, who's slightly further back from the rest of the grid. But again, this will all pile up once again. Just before the safety car gets going again, maybe just getting a little bit of a window. But it's certainly going to be interesting to try and see any of these drivers have damages. We get a beautiful shot of a harbour there. Not exactly the racing car we want to see. The ocean sure is beautiful, but dare I say, 19 Formula 1 cars winging it around Monaco at full pace is certainly something I'd prefer to look at much more. And the camera director decides, okay, I'll give it you, no worries. Any drivers diving into the pits? Simeon Violo diving into the pits, so we have both of the cybercars diving in the pits. That's going to be unfortunate, but we do have this race continuing with the likes of Legend Rosenberg building pressure on Louis Valentine. If you're Louis Valentine, how are you going to take this one, Alex?
You've just got to run your own race. Hards versus mediums. Of course, mediums will have the advantage at the start of this race, but we know track position is king around this circuit. It's going to have to be a dive bomb from Mr. Rosenberg to even think about a move on Mr. Lewis. And Lewis will know that. He'll know that right now he's in the best position possible because he's leading the Monaco Grand Prix. And a lot of people that end up leading the Monaco Grand Prix go on to win it. Of course, I can only think of one driver that hasn't done that, but I won't mention it because Josh will get upset.
Thank you for not bringing up Charles Leclerc.
I didn't say it. You said it.
Yep, it's okay. You could have brought up Daniel Ricciardo, but hey, that's more than okay with me.
He's won it though.
He's also lost it as well.
That's true. That's not his fault though.
Yeah, okay, sure. We'll blame a team on that one, but whenever it's Charles Leclerc, it's his fault. Anyway, moving on from that, because we do have some brilliant racing here. We've got Legend Rosenberg keeping that pressure up on Louis Valentine. Louis showing no signs of really crumbling at the minute. He's being as cold as ice up in front, but Legend is certainly one of those drivers you've got to be wary of. He is a veteran of sim racing. He knows exactly what to do. He knows what makes these drivers tick, and he knows he's just got to build a little bit of a gap slightly towards the likes of Timo Zlenkovic and find himself not necessarily inhaling all the hot air coming off of Louis Valentine's Aston Martin car, just so he can kind of buy himself a little bit more time, keep those tyres in check, and then really be able to keep pushing for a potential overtake when those medium tyres are all heated up and in the perfect operating window. But of course, we've already got drivers who have dived in the pits to repair a bit of front wing damage, for likes of Simeon Violo, Toppe, Alexander Dimas, Riccardo Benzoni and Valentino Labella have all made their pit stop and potentially might even look to try and sling those hard tyres to the end of a race, but again, it could be a certain long haul task for him to do. But again, we're seeing Legend Rosenberg getting so much better traction, heading up the inside at Tabak there with a brilliant move, very brave from the Legend Rosenberg. Surprise there. Who saw that nameplate coming in? As we got Timo Zelenkovic now, also in the Alpine, looking to try and make a move on Louis Valentine. But again, it'll be one of those things where he's got to find an opportunity to get past Louis, because Louis is not going to want to give that position up in any regard.
No, and I think he just got caught out there, Mr. Louis, because Mr. Rosenberg got a great exit over that chicane that we talked about. You know, he cut it slightly more than Lewis did, and maybe he just got caught napping a bit. But now the foot has changed around. That is not what I was looking to say, but the shoe is on the other foot, is what is the quote I was looking for. As Mr. Rosenberg is now in the lead of the Monaco Grand Prix, and Mr. Valentin is now down in second place. So a Red Bull and Aston Martin battling for the lead. I think I've seen this one before, Josh.
Is that an Alpine as well in P3? I'm fairly confident we've saw this one before. But hopefully for Timo Zelenkovic, he's going to be able to find a different result here and take this Alpine slightly higher up. You would think on the medium compounded tyre, he's going to be able to get so much better traction coming out of a couple of these slow corners, and especially just being able to carry a little bit more speed heading through the likes of Tabak as well. That he should be able to start maybe building a little bit more pressure on Louis Valentin. But again, it's all dependent on how the drivers want to run. If these drivers are looking to potentially get an undercut on their fellow compatriots of the same tyre, you know, you might not necessarily want to go for an overtake. You might just want to try and push him along a little bit further and try and get him to burn through that hard tyre slightly quicker than he would necessarily like to.
Yeah, 100%. But now we've dropped out of DRS range here. Already, the Aston Martin out of DRS range of Mr. Rosenberg, and there's no need to panic right now, Josh, but it seems there is a pace difference, and I don't know if it's a pace difference in the hard medium compound or if it's a pace difference between Mr. Valentin and Mr. Rosenberg.
I think it might be a little bit of both.
I think it's a bit of column A, a bit of column B.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, we know the hard compounds are going to be slower than the medium compounds. Even Will Buxton can tell you that one, guys.
I think he got that one right.
Yeah, well, sometimes he gets him a bit confused sometimes, but we'll ignore that in the testing commentary. Bless him. But of course, Louis Valentin here, he's just going to have to manage this gap a little bit, make sure he's not put under too much pressure from Timo Zelenkovic, and most importantly, make sure he doesn't make a mistake, because if he's going long with the track position, all he would potentially need is a VSC after a couple of these medium tyre runners of pit, and he could open up a whole window of opportunity to take control of this race once again on a fresher soft compound tyre. And surely at that point afterwards he'll be looking to be potentially one of the favourites to win this race, but we're a long way from that now. Heading onto lap 6 already, they are absolutely flying by, and JSA dives it into the pits, so he'll be looking to get a set of hard tyres strapped onto that car undoubtedly. And again, it'll be a great indication to just show how powerful the undercut is, with the comparisons of Simeon Violo, Alexander Dimas, Tope, Benzoni. Maybe not Valentino Lobello because of a double stack, but you could already see the prominent feature of this undercut working here, as we're going to see Violo fly past there, and of course we've got the Williams car and then the Haas car looking to try and get past him before turn 1. But I do believe JSA might just sneak out ahead of Tope here, but he's going to be vulnerable heading up the hill.
We've got a great battle brewing right now, Josh, between 7th, 8th and 9th. Two Ferraris caught behind an AlphaTauri. They're in 7th place, or as they will be called from this season onwards, the RBs. Or because they mean nothing, apparently. RB means nothing in this world, apparently.
I thought it meant Minardi.
Apparently it does. Apparently it does. But the interesting thing here, Josh, is there's a bit of a gap forming in the grids. We've got a couple of packs forming right now. We've obviously got the front pack right now between 1st and 5th. And then we've got Ivan Santamaria kind of sitting on their own in 6th place, in a bit of no man's land, as we call it. And then we've got Bogdan, Thomas Laminen, and Tony Richet, Matthew Adler, and Mr. Race, all from 11th up to 7th, all within DRS, all keeping close to each other. Modesto Mena is there as well, up to 12th place. I know he got a bit lucky because of the incidents at the start of the race, but you've got to keep it clean. He's doing quite well at the moment. But at the moment, Josh, it's a bit of frustration from the Ferrari pair because they can't find a way past Bogdan.
Yeah, absolutely. If I was working in the TF10 garage, I might potentially try and ask Thomas Laminen to keep pushing Bogdan, or maybe let his teammate pass on that fresh medium. Well, I say fresh medium, it's 6 laps old at this point. It's already going through the graining phase. It's not looking like the best, but it'll still be a little bit quicker than the hard compound type for the next couple laps. So to me, it would be imperative to let Tony Richet have a crack while he's still got that grip on the medium compound tyre, instead of just trying to get him towed along. But again, it's another one of these double-edged swords moments, isn't it? Because if he just gets towed along by his teammate, he'll be able to stretch those medium tyres oh so much more longer than the likes of Simeon Violo, Alexander Dimas, and even the likes of Legend Rosenberg and Timo Zelenkovic out towards the front here, as Nando Moreira has also cut up to the back of Daniele Parodi. There's a reason he's leading this championship. It's because he's had astonishing pace over the last 2 rounds, and he's looking to make it astonishing pace out of the last 3 rounds at the end of this Monaco Grand Prix. But he does have a little bit of work to do, doesn't he, the Aston Martin driver?
He certainly does. Got to get past Daniel Peretti and then try and clutch up to the front three of Zelenkovic, Lewis Valentin, and of course Mr. Rosenberg up top. I don't know why I'm calling people Mister today. I feel like it just feels like I've been doing it a lot.
You've grown some manners. It's a nice change.
I've grown some manners. Yes, it's lovely. I'm very British now. That wasn't British at all. As Mr. Tom Laminen is right on the back of Bogdan Moldovan. Bogdan pulls to the right hand side to defend, and Mr. Laminen can't make the move on him. There's so little places to overtake around here, Josh, as we well know. But there is one DRS zone down the main straight, but it doesn't really give you enough. You've got to have one hell of an exit off of the final corner to even try an attempt into, obviously, the most famous corner. No heroics into Sandavot.
Absolutely. But again, you know, we're riding on board here with Thomas Laminen. Just to give you guys a simple idea, if you're not too familiar with Monaco, which, I mean, firstly, welcome to Monaco at night. It's a brilliant scene that we get here in the F1 game, but you can see how narrow the track is. You can barely fit two cars heading through any part of a circuit, let alone trying to go three wide. So that's why it can be so difficult for drivers to overtake, despite them having an abundant small pace. I mean, if you think back to, was it 2019 or 2018 when Ricciardo had the battery problem?
2018.
Had a battery problem, wasn't able to deploy any of his battery. He was just stuck in a harvesting mode, and he was still able to defend off the lead of this race thanks to some brilliant defensive driving. And we're seeing a similar defensive driving technique here from Bogdan Moldovan. Place him at AlphaTauri car exactly where he knows Thomas Laminen won't want to risk going for an overtake, making it very audacious and kind of forcing Thomas Laminen to go for a really ballsy overtake, which could potentially get him a bit of damage if it ends up not playing out the exact way he wants. And again, you see Bogdan Moldovan place him at AlphaTauri car, nice to the apex there, just making it very awkward for Thomas Laminen to try and get any sort of a run on the AlphaTauri car. It's a fantastic job so far from Bogdan.
Yeah, Bogdan's doing an amazing job, but for Thomas Laminen, he can't afford. If he's got more pace in that Ferrari, by the looks of it, he does, and both Tony Richet will be getting frustrated as well. He's got to try and make that move somewhere, and, you know, even at the cost of a little bit of damage, yeah, either you're going to be sitting there for the entire race, frustrated and held up by an AlphaTauri, or you try and send it somewhere and see how it goes. Of course, try and send it with the most respect possible. Here we go. So Thomas Laminen is going to be right behind Bogdan, going down the main straight here with DRS wide open. Is he going to dump a bit of battery? He is dumping battery. He's dumping it into Sandavot. Will he go for it down the inside? No, he won't. He's not close enough on this occasion, but the good exit out of turn one, and we head up the hill now. A brilliant corner in Formula 1. Will he make the move to the inside? He looked to switch there, but he's not close enough yet. He's going to have to make it down here. But of course, as we mentioned, Bogdan pulls right over to avoid the bump, and it's a brilliant defensive cover and a bit of a rear end loss there from Thomas Laminen. Frustration for the Ferrari driver. But up top, Josh, Mr. Lewis Valentina has clearly found some pace on those hard tyres because he's back in DRS range.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was talking about. I feel like these drivers are, you know, almost equal pace-wise, depending on, you know, their technical ability to manage the car, to control it. They're very, very similar. They've got similar driving styles as well. Both of them like to push the car. Both of them like to have that aggressive steering lock as well. Certainly something we've seen throughout our time here at PSGL. And Louis Valentin here now showing that those hard compound tyres are coming into an operating window where they're able to catch back up to the mediums. And he might be able to start putting a bit of pressure to Legend Rosenberg. But there's a reason why I like to call him the legend. It's because he's been around the block so many times before. He's been to the streets of Monaco. He's held on to race wins. He's defended positions. So certainly, you know, you would have to consider the potential of him not necessarily crumbling under the pressure. That could be something which could be playing, you know, a little devil on Louis Valentin's shoulder here.
Interestingly enough there, George, Mr. Bogdan has just come into the pits for a change of front wing and a new set of tyre. So I don't know if he's had a little collision with the Ferrari drivers or if he's tapped the wall. But he's now going to come out just behind, I believe, Toppy, and maybe behind Riccardo Benzoni. It's going to be close. And I think he's just in between them. Yeah, he's just in between the two drivers. But Bogdan there, after all his defensive work, has now fallen down to 16th place. But he's got a new front wing on. Can he make the undercut successful? He's going to have to push a lot, and he's going to be held up by a few drivers.
Absolutely, it'll be one of those horrible things being held up when you know you've got the faster tyre compound around Monaco. But again, it just depends how much Tope really wants to defend this position, because realistically, if he's able to keep going at the pace he's going, he could potentially be looking at a good handful of points. But on the same note, if he keeps going up the way he's going, he's going to have to pit again off those medium tyres because they will not take him to the end of his race. And this is where we're going to see Bogdan Moldovan pull to the inside to get a beautiful move down on the inside, making sure he ends up hitting the apex, not clunking the wall. And that just goes to show, really, the amount of grip extra those fresh compound tyres can offer the drivers. So, are we going to see any more moves heading throughout the field here? Any more drivers willing to dive it into the pits to kind of match what Bogdan's done here, or are they going to keep trying to stretch it out that little bit longer? Now they don't have a driver with wing damage in front of them. Perhaps Thomas Lavender might be able to push those hard tyres a little bit more to catch up to the rear of Ivan Santamaria.
As Mr. Simone there loses 2 places, falls down to 14th place behind JST and Alexander Dimas into Sander Vot, as they say. Yeah, up top right now, Rosenberg still leads ahead of Mr. Lewis Valentin. Timo Zlekovic about 1.8 seconds back, but I wouldn't say he's out of this race at all. He's in a 3rd place, which would be a great result for him. Because, to be honest with you, Josh, he's probably not started the season the way he would have wanted. He's not had the best of results so far this year, so a 3rd place around Monaco could really kick-start his season, similar to another Alpine driver in real life who got a 3rd place around Monaco, and it kind of kick-started his season as well.
Yes, absolutely. The Principality of Monaco has certainly been a great place for this Alpine outfit, and it's also been a great place for the Renault outfit back before it ended up getting taken back over. Certainly given them a good handful of points, a good couple of podiums as well throughout their time. And Timo Zlenkovic is looking to reenact that again. As you can see, he is slowly starting to reel in Louis Valentin, though, which could indicate Louis Valentin might be starting to struggle on those hard compound tyres. Maybe they might not be lasting as long as we initially thought.
Very much so. It's very interesting because, to be honest with you, Josh, I've played a lot of this year's game, and of course I know how the tyres work now a lot as Mr. Bogdan sets the fast lap of the race. Medium tyres used to take you quite far around Monaco because of the tyre wear used to be a lot tougher. But in this year's game, tyre wear is so graining, especially around a circuit like this where you're running a lot of downforce, and it'll be very interesting to see exactly when these tyres will need to come in. And I wonder anyone's going to go for the undercut, because we know how powerful it is. Of course, around Monaco, the overcut is probably, arguably, better, but it's Monaco. The undercut is still super powerful. Who's gonna brave it? That's the question I want to know.
It's just about track position at the end of the day, isn't it? If you're able to get a bit more track position on the guys in front, and if anything happens, you know, VSC, safety car wise, it could open up a whole different opportunity for a lot of these drivers to really be able to continue pushing on and looking slightly further forward into the race. But we've got some brilliant battles breaking out all across the field. We've got Nando Moreira putting a bit more pressure on Daniele Parodi here for P4. That gap is slowly starting to whittle away as well. Especially if you look behind, we've got Ivan Santamaria starting to close in on these two as well. Clearly showing those hard compound tyres aren't feeling like the best tyre available at the minute. And with, well, almost half a race, well, sorry, no, not even almost half a race done. We've still got a good couple laps until we reach that point. Perhaps it might be an indication that these drivers might have to try and attempt a two-stop if they're not feeling too comfortable on the tyres.
Two-stop around Monaco, Josh? Have you lost your mind?
Absolutely.
Probably. You know, I'd love to see it. I do love a two-stop, but I think of all the places to see a two-stop, I think Nando Moreira's hit the wall there. Just coming into the swimming chicane. He's not got any damage, luckily, on his Aston Martin that I could see. Maybe a bit of superficial damage. We'll see if he dives into the pits and carries on going. So he's okay at the moment. Lewis Valentin has now dropped back out of DRS range. I imagine the hard tyres are now going through their graining phase. The mediums have already hit theirs and have gone through it, luckily enough for them. As we see, is that the Ferrari of Mr. Tony Roche into the pits here on lap 15. Now, is that going to trigger some people around here to make pit stops as well? Or is that because of Bogdan's pace? Because Bogdan is coming down the main straight now, and I think he's going to jump Tony Roche again, and he is. Wow.
Wow, Bogdan certainly has got a good bit of pace to show here, but you got to think those medium tyres won't be looking the best at the end of the race, while Tony Roche's got to be on some hard compound tyres, which have shown they can last that little bit longer in comparison to the mediums, hitting the grinding phase around lap 15 here. So it'll certainly be one to keep an eye out for, as you see Bogdan taking a very brave move to the inside there before it's swinging around the outside. Alexander Dimas decides to relinquish the position and lets Bogdan pass, knowing it's probably not worth fighting, but we've got a time penalty for Lejeune Rosenberg, and it's a 3-second one. one. That could potentially dent his chances of even finishing going on the podium in this race. We're going to have to keep an eye out for that as we see Louis Valentine now sensing a bit of an opportunity to potentially win this race once again. We know how difficult it is to overtake around Monaco, but if a driver's going to get a time penalty, you know you've just got to keep your nose clean at the end of the day.
All you got to do is match his pace at this point. That's all he's got to do now. Just got to match his pit stop, match his pace, and he will win this Grand Prix. It's as simple as that at the moment. And we mentioned it in qualifying. It's easy to get an invalidation around it because to be fast around Monaco, especially for these guys, of course, me and Josh have driven these cars before, but we are nowhere near as fast as these guys. You are on the limit every single lap. You know, you're trying to be on the edge of corner cutting every single lap. And around Monaco, where basically you can't stop to even breathe, let alone, you know, make a little correction to go over a chicane differently, you know, it costs you big. And I imagine genuinely that the first place he got one of those warnings was when he got past Louis Valentine, because I said he cut that corner a lot to get the exit out of that chicane. I reckon he did it just to take the lead of the Grand Prix, and unfortunately it's bitten back on him, and he's got himself 2 more.
Absolutely, but I do want to divert the attention of you guys at home to the likes of Race here, currently in P9, trying to chase down Matthew Adler in that Mercedes. He's got a lot of pace heading through Sector 1, but he ends up slowly just falling off through Sector 2, but he catches it back up again for Sector 3, so it's certainly going to be interesting. Clearly running slightly higher wings for Matthew Adler, but again, you've got to run low enough wings that you are able to get a good opportunity to overtake down the straights, because realistically, heading into a braking zone around Monaco, there's so few of them, where you won't be able to gain the advantage by diving it on the brakes, moving to the inside, maybe moving it to the outside. It's just a risk that you don't necessarily want to take. So at the minute, Race is kind of stuck behind this Mercedes car and just having to wait for an opportunity for Matthew Adler to make a mistake. But we know so many of these drivers religiously practice this game. Like, looking at it yesterday, I would say we had about 90% of this grid on it for at least 2 hours last night, just making sure, and that's all I've seen from these drivers. They will practice in offline mode, they will practice when I'm not on Steam, when I'm not on my computer. They practice to an absolute extraordinary extent to make sure they are best prepared to try and take the challenge to a couple of these drivers, and potentially to try to win the championship here in F3.
Of course, it's all about winning the championship. That's what. If you're not signing up to win the championship, then I don't think you're really signing up to be a driver here. That's what everyone's goal will want to be. That's where they want to aim. Josh, what is a pit stop around the Monaco Grand Prix?
Well, painful. It's very painful, because you've got to think, once you dive into that pit lane, yes, the pit entry is so short, but because it's so short, if you end up carrying a little bit too much speed, you get slam dunked with a 5-second penalty. And then on top of that as well, it can be quite a tedious pit stop to get out of. It ruins your run going up the hill, which could lead to a side-by-side moment. But roughly, you're looking at about 21 seconds, I want to say.
21 seconds?
Yes, and that's without a potential change for a pit stop wing as well. So it'll certainly be something we're going to have to keep an eye on as we see JS there picking up a time penalty heading through Saint Devant, I believe.
Yeah, well, the only reason I was pointing that out is because I was just keeping an eye on Mr. Bogdan Moldovan's pace. And he's about 27 seconds off the lead of the Grand Prix. And considering how far away he was before the pit stop phase, that's really quite impressive. But, of course, we've got Tony Roche as well, trying to push for another place. I believe he's making a move in the middle sector. That's incredible that he's pulled that off. So we've got a yellow flag as Riccardo Benzoni retires from the Grand Prix. And another virtual safety car has come out here. But both Rosenberg and Valentine have gone past the pit lane before they could pull in, and Zelenkovic has pulled in and is going for the pit stop along with Mr. Daniel Pereira and Nando Moreno as well, and Ivan Santamaria and Thomas Laminen. All of them will come into the pits now, but the front two could not get into the pits in time.
That's going to be really unfortunate for them, because we're going to see Timo Zelenkovic on a fresh set of hard compound tyres. Leshon Rosenberg and Louis Valentine might be ruining, just carrying that little bit of extra pace for that first stint. They could have just held up the pack a little bit more to make sure this sort of situation doesn't happen. But it is very unfortunate for Ricciardo to lose it heading up through turn 4 there. Just about to... It's so unfortunate. But who's not pit?
Tony Roche stayed out, and so did JST. But also, Bogdan Moldovan decided to pit for new tyres as well. He had so much pace on the new tyres, I understand why. As we're back underway, DRS is re-enabled here. So, Zelenkovic, only 20 seconds off of second place, Josh.
Yes, he could be in a prime position to take control of this race, but of course we've still got a brilliant battle here between the Ferrari and the McLaren. How many times have we said that around the streets of Monaco, as we've got JSD defending hard to the inside there on that old hard compound tyre, and Thomas Laminin just can't find his way around the outside. But I'm sure Thomas isn't going to take a no for an answer here. He's going to be looking to try and get this move done, heading through the tunnel section. It can be risky, it can be dangerous. We've seen a Ferrari and a McLaren make contact here many moons ago, but Thomas Laminin gets a brilliant run out that corner to make the move around the outside, climbing himself up into P8 there, and now he'll be looking to catch back up to his teammate to try and continue this run. But we've got Lesion Rosenberg and Louis Valentine in the pits, and Timo Zlenkovic is already heading down the main straight, so he's going to be end up taking the lead of this race, while we've still got Louis Valentine, Lesion Rosenberg rolling out the pit lane. But I do believe they might be safe from the likes of Daniel Parodi here, who will have a little bit of a run. But of course,
it's closer though.
You've got to think as well, how much easier is it to follow a car in front? It's easier to get the pace down. It's easier to work around. You can see the racing lines they take. You know how much battery they're using in comparison. Once you have a visual on them, you can see a red light flashing if they're using too much. You can see them pulling away. So perhaps this could be the key that Daniele Parodi needs. Of course, on medium tyres, a lap hold, slightly more warmed up than the tyres which have just come out of the pit lane as well. And Timo Zlenkovic has a 3-second gap to the cars behind, so he can take it a little bit easier if he wants, just to make sure he doesn't pick up a 3-second time penalty, which even if Lesion Rosenberg overtakes, he's got to pull out 3 seconds.
Yeah, Rosenberg's 3-second time penalty could come into a huge factor here for the guys in 4th and 5th. For Daniel Pareda and Nando Morena, they could both find themselves on the podium here in 3rd place, depending on how these time penalties go. Because Zelenkovic is kind of still leading about 3.2 seconds, and then we've got Rosenberg, and then we've got Luis Valentina right behind him with DRS. All of these drivers have DRS, so they'll pull each other across, but the one that doesn't have DRS is Zelenkovic. But most importantly, Josh, as we've said so many times in this race, he's got track position.
Yes, track position is king around the streets of Monaco. We all know that, as we see Race now trying to pull to the outside for an overtake into Sandavon. A brilliant move there. So late on the brakes on JSD. Just showing us that extra level of grip those medium tyres have in comparison to the old hard tyres. Now it'll be down to Race here to try and catch back up to Matthew Adler and continue that battle they were having. Currently a 1.9 second deficit between them, but we know the pace Race has. He's shown it before in previous rounds here in F3, so we could expect him to catch back up to the rear of Matthew Adler and start putting a little bit more pressure on that P9 driver to try and make an overtake, similar to what Louis Valentine's doing here to Lesion Rosenberg, heading through Sector 2 at the minute.
And I'm keeping an eye as well on, as we see actually Luis Valentine, I thought he was going for the move as well, there into the swimming pool chicane. Are we going to see a little bit of what I like to call the Arava special as he picks up a time penalty? That's the Arava special as he also tries to go down the inside. And now both 2nd and 3rd have time penalties in this race, Josh.
Yes, absolutely. I don't happen to, know that you're talking about a switch back into Raskas, are you?
I might be talking about a switch back into Raskas, but unfortunately we didn't see it. We just saw a 3-second time penalty. If someone makes a switch back into Raskas, I will be very, very happy, because that's one of my favourite moves to do in Formula 1.
Absolutely. I mean, when you run the game at 70 AI like you do, it's a lot easier to make moves, as we've got the 2 Ferrari drivers working together or not, as they make a little bit of contact there, heading through turn 3. A little tap on the side there from Tony Roche, getting overtaken there by Thomas Laminin. Certainly wasn't happy about that move, but Thomas Laminin now on that fresher medium compound tyre is going to be looking to try and pull away. I might want Tony Roche to try and hold up the rest of the field behind.
Ferrari Civil War?
It's not the first time, and it won't be the last time. I can almost guarantee
no, certainly won't.
Because both of these drivers are so eager to get wins here in F3. Both of them have got the pace to compete at a higher level. Sometimes it's just not the way the cookie crumbles for them, and they find themselves in an awkward situation. But someone who finds himself in a totally smooth and dare I say maybe even calming situation is Daniel Parodi here, currently in P4. 7 tenths off the back of Louis Valentine, 1.4 off of Lesion Rosenberg, and both of them have 3-second time penalties.
It's beautiful. It's exactly what he needs for Williams and for himself. Interestingly enough here, now Zelenkovic, you might think that right now he is comfortable leading the race. About 1.7 seconds, he's got track position, he's got no time penalties. Arguably, this is the point where he's got to be under the most pressure. Because right now, he can win this race with his eyes shut. Because the 2 people behind him have got time penalties, and he doesn't.
Absolutely.
But if he gets himself a time penalty now, that changes the entire dynamic of this Grand Prix.
Absolutely. He's just got to take it that a little bit easier, knowing that he can defend the track position. It all comes down to how much race pace has he got and how much has he practiced taking those intermediary lines between going full defensive and a racing line around the circuit of Monaco, because it can be quite a difficult task to manage to be able to continue the speed coming through a lot of these fast flowing corners to make sure the car behind doesn't necessarily get a run, but also prevent them from trying to make a move heading into the initial corner. It's certainly a technique that a lot of drivers here have managed to nail. Looking at the likes of Bogdan Moldovan, it clearly showed he's got the aspect for it, but has Timas Lenkovic been able to manufacture his own driving style to defend around Monaco? Feel like it won't be too long until we get to see, as we see Legion Rosenberg almost closing up to within a second here.
This is going to be a titanic battle to the end between these drivers, but are we going to see a move round the outside? Oh, from the Aston Martin driver. Oh, goodness me. We almost saw a very similar move from Sebastian Vettel a few years ago, but unfortunately we got to see another car at the time. It wasn't Aston Martin though, that's for sure. What a brilliant move, almost, from Lewis Valentin there. Interestingly enough, George, these two with the 3-second time penalties have decided to try and challenge each other. They've got to go full balls to the walls, you might say, because they need to clear each other and clear Mr. Selenkovic up top.
Yeah, and if you're on that medium tyre like Lou Valentin is, surely you've got to start thinking, right, Legend was able to overtake me and pull away. I've clearly got the pace to match him. I'm on a better set of tyres. Surely I can give it a go and try and get past him. But of course, we do know Legend Rosenberg is one of those key drivers in the Formula 1 sim racing community, where he's been such a prominent figure for a lot of these drivers to sort of look up to and pace themselves. And Louis Valentin finds himself trying to pace himself against Legend Rosenberg here, heading up into, for the likes of turn 3. It can be very awkward, it can be very technical, and it can potentially even cause incidents as well. So it'll be key to sort of see how Louis Valentin is going to be able to measure himself up against Legend Rosenberg. I don't think he will. I think he's going to recharge a bit more battery and then try and go for it in the next couple of laps. But you could just see the amount of extra grip he has. It's ridiculous.
It is ridiculous. Will he try and dive it down the inside here? No, keeps it behind for another lap. As you mentioned, Josh, probably recharging the battery a bit, looking for a move at some point where maybe Mr. Rosenberg wouldn't expect it, and trying to get a little bit of a dive bomb going around Monaco. It's the only place to really do it. You can go for a dive bomb whenever you feel like it. I love a dive bomb in Formula 1. Josh knows it too well. And Rosenberg leading, in second, I should say, leading Mr. Lewis Valentin by about 0.2 of a second. I think Lewis is trying to go for the same move that Rosenberg did when he overtook him, but he can't seem to get the same exit that Rosenberg did. Maybe proving my point that Rosenberg took the hit on that track limits penalty just to get the exit and get the move done.
Yeah, of course, it's certainly something which we could consider. I'm sure the stewards will have an even closer look at it. But at the minute, we also have the two AlphaTauris fighting it out. Bogdan Moldovan trying to get past Modesto Mena, but he's currently really struggling. He's depleted his battery, hence the red flashing light indicating he's below 10%. And he's also slightly overcooked his rear tyres. That's why he's sliding a lot coming through most of these corners. It's not necessarily the quickest way. And certainly Modesto Mena won't necessarily mind it, having his teammate behind him sliding a little bit, just struggling for that little bit more pace, just so he can try and hold on to P11 and maybe even try and work his way forward, as we see Matthew Adler now also applying a little bit more pressure to the likes of Tony Roche, who is on that older compound of tyre, sticking it out under the VSC. It's a very brave move from Tony Roche, but again, track position is key around here. I don't know how many times we've got to say it. Might as well wear it on a t-shirt at this point, Alex.
Getting so many t-shirts made at this point. And Matthew Adler looking to get past Tony Roche. We know what Tony Roche is like though, Josh, don't we? We've seen it throughout his racing career. He loves to be very defensive, and especially when he's got that time, but he can't be defensive on this occasion because down the inside goes Matthew Adler, and Tony Roche looking to defend best he can, but he's defended a bit too hard as well. Up the inside goes Race. He tries to go around the outside, as Matthew Adler. These guys are properly going at it. Tony Roche holding on for dear life at the moment in that Ferrari, as Matthew Adler looks to try and make that move done. It seems more likely, Josh, of not if he gets past him, it's when at the moment.
Absolutely, you could just see the abundance of pace that not only Matthew has, but also Race behind him. You could just see him closing up to Tony Roche, potentially trying to look at maybe even making it 3 wide, but around a circuit like Monaco, it's not feasible, it's not possible if they'll have to stick and just wait for an opportunity. But you can already see here how much Matthew Adler's closing up in the braking zone. Surely he's got to be thinking about a move down here. He's got the battery to work with as well, so potentially could even see it into the Novell chicane.
Yeah, I'd imagine that's the likely place we're going to see it, or out of the tunnel. It's very tricky to make a move in a sector like this. And of course, Race will be on to any sort of incidents that these two have. If these two collide or anything, race will be there to pick up the pieces, if you'll say it with that. But Matthew Adler now right within a chance of making the move. But that looked like the last lap was his opportunity to make that move stick. And at the moment, Josh, he can't seem to get close enough again. I don't know if he got a bit of damage from that little bit of wheel-to-wheel battling, but can't close in just enough yet. But Rosenberg was in DRS range of Zelenkovic. Not too important around this circuit. Something that is important to mention, though, Josh, is the gaps to the cars behind that these two have pulled out.
Yes, I mean, realistically, you got to think the more these guys fight, the worse of a scenario they put themselves in. And I feel like both of these drivers understand it. Louis Valentine and Legend Rosenberg taking it slightly easier on one another, not necessarily fighting for position, understanding the awkward predicament they're in, because you've got the likes of Daniele Peroni, Nando Moreira, and maybe even Ivan Santa Maria if he's able to kick it into the next gear and close up to the rear of Nando Moreira, potentially to, see a couple of these drivers work together to close back up on these top three, to try and put the likes of Legend Rosenberg and Louis Valentine under a bit more pressure to try and force them to make an overtake. But again, it'll be one of those things. It's more of an if, not necessarily a when. We will have to keep an eye out for it because we've got so many great battles happening all throughout the field. But Legend Rosenberg on a lap fresher tyres certainly looks like he's got the pace on the likes of Timo Zelenkovic here, doesn't he?
He certainly does. He certainly does. Keeping an eye on the Matthew Adler, Tony Richet battle that's going on as well. Tony Richet's tyres are going to be crying towards the end of this Grand Prix. Well, we're not there yet, Josh. We have 10 laps to go as the leaders cross the line to start lap 29. And right now, Mr. Rosenberg is within a chance of taking at least the lead of the Grand Prix as Modesto Mena picks up a 3-second time penalty. Was running a great race for Alpha Tauri there in 11th place. Not in the points, but from the back of the grid to 11th. I think a lot of people would have taken that from a Monaco Grand Prix. I should say that as Mr. Bogdan Moldovan gets past. Oh, big mistake there from Rosenberg as he's hit the back of Zelenkovic, and it's caused Valentine to hit the back of him. We're going to need damage on the Aston Martin or Red Bull. I can't see any at the moment, but are we going to keep an eye on Rosenberg, who doesn't get the best exit out of the tunnel there? I thought he might go for a move into the Nobel chicane, but doesn't go for it.
No, he's just waiting behind, isn't he? He is trying to find his opportunity. But of course, if he did end up causing a little bit of damage, not all the damage in this game is visible. That's something we've learned. That's something we've picked up. So potentially could be carrying maybe 2% of wing damage. And it'll, of course, still have a massive effect on his lap time. Something we will have to keep in mind here. But you can already see it's closing back up to the likes of Timo Zelenkovic. So even if he has picked up a minute amount of wing damage, it's not looking too bad for him. Still within 0.4 of a second to the likes of Timo Zelenkovic. But of course, we've still got battles raging out throughout the entire grid. And one of them is Matthew Adler, still on the back of Tony Richet, looking for a move, getting ever so close behind Raskas, trying to take a wider line. But it's just not there. It's not there for him at the minute, is it?
Nope, not going for the switchback of dreams in Raskas at the moment. Can't make that move stick. Would have loved to see it, but I think it's so tricky to pull off, especially not when you're racing 70 AI and you're racing someone like Tony Richet. Here we go, up to the top. Here we go, of Monaco. We're going to make him see a move around the outside. No, just sticking behind him once again. And frustration sets in for Matthew Adler. He can't find a way past Tony Richet. And Tony Richet, as we mentioned, has got track advantage. He may not have tyre advantage, but it doesn't matter on the occasion. We saw Lewis Hamilton defend a rampant Max Verstappen for, I think it must have been about 10, 15, 20 laps in Monaco a few years ago. And he wasn't, and Max couldn't get past no matter how many dive bombs he tried down the inside.
Certainly something we'll have to keep an eye on there. As also up towards the front, we've got another driver trying to chime in with a potential overtake. And of course, that'll be Louis Valentine heading up to behind Legend Rosenberg. These drivers are, so close on track to one another. It's not normally what we would necessarily see around Monaco, having all these drivers in such close succession. I do feel like having it at night time as well, just having that air temperature and the track temperature a little bit cooler is helping these drivers follow one another so their engines don't overheat. Their tyres aren't necessarily screaming out in pain by being chucked around through these circuits. And you can already see Louis Valentine has an abundant small grip there. So perhaps Legend Rosenberg did pick up damage.
Yeah, I think he might have done. He did tap him quite aggressively. I was a bit worried about Lewis Valentine as well, because he looked like he tapped the back of Rosenberg as well. So,
Yes.
8 laps to go here at the Monaco Grand Prix. It's been a fascinating Grand Prix, I must say, in terms of the battles, the tyre strategies, what we've seen. Time penalties time penalties adored everywhere by a few drivers, as JST sets the fastest lap time there of a 1:09.286. Of course, That is a point, but I believe he's down in 15th, so he won't get one, but he will stop the other drivers from getting the points as well. Are we going to see a move here into Raskas, Josh? Can he go for it? No, he's too far back. Just want to see a move into Raskas.
You're not going to get it just yet, because these drivers up towards the front three, you would expect them now at this point, knowing there's 8 laps left, knowing that their tyres are all going to end up hitting a grading phase sooner or later, to potentially be start storing up a little bit more ERS to potentially try and look to burn it in the final couple of laps. But the real question is, Alex, where do you burn it? Do you burn it up the hill, up here, heading into turn 3? As Louis Valentine tried a very cheeky move to the inside there, but it wasn't quite on, so he's going to have to readjust his plans here and maybe think for a move somewhere else on the track, because it was clear Lejeune Rosenberg had that all planned out. He knew exactly where to place his car to make sure Louis Valentine wouldn't be able to take an opportunity by Lejeune just taking a slightly wider corner there.
You rarely see a move up the inside of that corner, do you, Josh? Rarely, ever. If maybe only in the wet, but even then I think that would be ambitious to do, as I believe Alexander Dimas has made a move on Modesto Mena for 12th place. But right now, Louis Valentine still closing on the back of Mr. Rosenberg, who's on the back of Mr. Zelenkovic. They're all Misters up in first, second, and third. I don't know if that's true, actually. But Daniel Pereira is still within 3 seconds of at least Louis Valentine to get third place. But that gap is slowly increasing, Josh. You know, it will be a huge blow for the Williams outfit if they didn't jump onto the podium here.
Yep, certainly. You would have to think Daniele might be kicking himself if he's not able to extract a little bit more pace. But you can start seeing up towards the front here, these guys are slowly starting to get reeled back into Daniele Parodi down that DRS straight. Perhaps they might be having a little bit too much squabbling. Perhaps maybe jockeying for position. Maybe moving out of the slipstream range. And it's just giving Daniele Parodi an opportunity to catch in, heading up through Sector 1 and up the hill as well. As we're going to see Matthew here, once again, all over the back of Tony Roche. We got 2 key fights happening at the minute, both of the position. Both of them look very hungry to try and make the moves, but Matthew Adler is just having to wait here. But you can see how much slower Tony Roche is on those old hard tyres. Surely Matthew Adler's got to make an opportunity coming through the Nobel chicane this time. Surely it's going to be a matter of time.
I think he's saved up his battery enough. He's really been pressurising Tony Roche on this occasion. Are we going to see it? Are we going to finally see the Mercedes get past the Ferrari? But I think Tony Roche's just got that straight line speed, because through the tunnel, unless Tony Roche makes a mistake, I don't think he's going to get overtaken. The 2 TF10 drivers, of course, battling it out for position. One in a Mercedes, one in a Ferrari. Just can't seem to close in enough, Josh, unless he can do it in the swimming pool chicane and make a move into Raskas or make a move down the main straight with DRS. He will probably end this race in P9, because right now, frustration is all the game for Tony Roche to frustrate Matthew Adler.
Absolutely, and once again we're seeing Louis Valentine burning a little bit of battery up towards turn 3, making sure he's nice on the rear of Lejeune Rosenberg. He went for a move to the inside, but it just wasn't on. Lejeune placed his car beautifully once again, heading through Casino there. Grand Hotel Hairpin as well. There's nowhere to get past there. You can't squeeze the car. Louis Valentine is all over back of Lejeune Rosenberg. Some might even call a couple of these opportunities, maybe even desperate to try and get a pass there. But again, he's just having to wait and just having to settle back down for P3. And just have to try and find an opportunity here, because it's not going to be gifted to him. Lejeune Rosenberg, he is stone cold at the minute. He is cool as ice, looking to try and hold on to this P2. And with all this battling going on, Daniele Parodi, currently in P4, has almost fallen out. As I say that, he has fallen behind 3 seconds, and with a little wobble heading through to back there, that's not going to help him too much close up to ensure he could get P3 in the podium. But again, it's just one of those things where it'll be a bit of to and fro until the very final lap, when all these drivers decide to push and really try and make an opportunity. Similar to what Reyes is doing now on Matthew Adler. He's looking for an opportunity. The hunter becomes the hunted, as this Red Bull is looking like it's got some serious pace here, and Reyes is clearly going to try and make a move in the next couple laps here.
Race really pushing that Red Bull through this Monaco street circuit. One of the best street circuits on the calendar. Maybe not for racing, but we've seen some fantastic overtakes here today, especially by Bogdan. Bogdan Moldovan has really made some good moves this afternoon. Down in P11 right now, but he's actually been fantastic in this Grand Prix, just outside of the points. At the front of the grid, we've seen some fantastic battling. In the midfield, we always say, how many times have we said the midfield battles are always best than the battles for the lead? But Nando Morena, in DRS range of Daniel Danielle Parade in 4th place.
Yeah, and you got to think maybe if Nando gets a little bit more aggressive with the likes of Daniele Parodi, could potentially even pressure Daniele into a potential mistake here. But you can see Daniele slowly start to fall off from the back of P3, so we could potentially see the podiums, regardless of them getting penalties, still receiving their trophy.
The mediums are gone.
Yeah, potentially.
The mediums have gone off.
I mean, well, looking at this point, you know, you're seeing the likes of Reyes and Matthew Adler having a closer battle than Matthew Adler and Tony Roche, and Adler had so much more pace in comparison to Tony Roche. So you would consider maybe the TF10 driver of the Ferrari's done enough to hold off the TF10 driver in that Mercedes outfit. But again, we've still got 3 more laps to go. Those hard tyres might not be all they're cracked up to be in the next couple of laps. We'll have to wait and see. But so far, it looks like Timo Zlenkovic is leading the way in a more of a comfortable manner than you would expect, with the 2 cars behind him picking up a 3-second time penalty. Even if they do overtake him, he's still got a lovely little window, which he just has to hold on to the back of these 2.
Yeah, exactly. It's not over yet. It's not over till the checker flag falls, is it, Josh?
That's my line.
And I've taken it from you
dear.
today as Modesto Maina retires from the Grand Prix in the pit lane. It's not been a good afternoon for the AlphaTauri, and especially for the man second in the championship, if I'm not mistaken. And it's just not gone well for him at all.
No, it certainly hasn't. But of course, Monaco is one of those outlying circuits where it can cause trouble for a couple drivers here and there. It's not always about the the amount of practice you can put in. Some drivers are more technically and more naturally talented around these horrible, awkward circuits that we find ourselves arriving at almost at a monthly basis in the real Formula 1 calendar. But we still have some more brilliant racetracks heading your way for the remainder of this season, as we've got 3 laps to go.
Oh my god. Modesto Maina's car coming out of the pit lane there could have cost a lot of people, and it might. Oh, it cost Daniel Parade. Danielle. Oh my God! It's cost Nando as well. Second in the championship has held up first in the championship.
Oh dear.
Because of AI cars, it's put Ivan Santamaria right in the hunt now for P5. Oh no.
You can't script it. You cannot script these features.
You can't write these things.
No, absolutely not. But something that Louis Valentine's looking to try and write is that overtaking Legend Rosenberg. He's been hunting for it. Both of these are fighting for a potential P2 on the road, and it's looking more than likely with Daniele Parodi getting held up there by a retired car. So, when is Louis going to try and turn on the afterburners and really try and make a strike on Legend Rosenberg? We know those mediums aren't feeling the best at the moment, as we can see him literally nose to tail with that Red Bull car, pushing it through the final corners. This will be his opportunity. Surely you'd think heading up the hill at this point.
I don't think he's close enough. I still don't think he's that close to make that move stick. Legend Rosenberg has done everything he can, and a little bit of a tyre slip coming out of turn 1 for Lewis Valentine. He's going to have to wait another lap, but that is the last lap of the race they're going on to. They're on the penultimate lap, Josh, lap 38 of 39 of this Monaco Grand Prix. Zelenkovic took advantage of the virtual safety car to find himself in the lead of the Monaco Grand Prix, where the other 2 unfortunately could not, and then they pick up 3-second time penalty. It doesn't affect them in terms of losing positions behind now, but it has affected them in the battle for the race lead and the battle with each other.
Yes, absolutely. Daniel Parodi's going to feel very hard done by, and Nando Maria might even feel hard done by if Ivan Santamaria is able to kick it up another gear and try and find a little bit more pace. But you can see how aggressive Louis Valentine is taking that chicane. He's not worried about trying to get floor damage. He just wants that P2 on track, doesn't he? He's pushing that poor little Aston Martin to a whole new level. But we've got Timo Zlenkovic still very comfortable out towards the lead of this race. I don't want to say it's looking like an all she wrote, but it might very well do. But of course, we still have this final lap to go here. There's still a lot to be won. There's still a lot to be lost. And also, I do want to point out Matthew Adler is now falling out of DRS range of Tony Roche towards the midfield, but we'll keep an eye on this battle up towards the front.
Here we go, last lap of the Monaco Grand Prix. The Principalitine is about to find its winner this afternoon. Will it be Zelenkovic? Will it be Rosenberg? Or will it be Valentine? Of course, Valentine and Rosenberg both sitting on 3-second time penalties, but that doesn't mean they're not going to win this. Anything can still happen with about half a lap of Monaco to go. It's been a fascinating Grand Prix, which might be won by Mr. Zelenkovic. We told you at the start of the race, we told him when he was running in 3rd place that he could do with a big victory here in F3 this season, because it's not started the best. He finished off last season very well, but it's not started off this year very well, and he might pick up a big victory here at Monaco. A few corners to go. Through the swing pull chicane we go. We're going to see is Zelenkovic still going to be in the lead when we cross the line? Even with the time penalties, it doesn't matter because he has been excellent in this Grand Prix. Coming through the final corner now, and it looks like there's only one winner on the card. Timo Zelenkovic comes round the final corner. He crosses the line to win the Monaco Grand Prix. Rosenberg finishes in second place. Lewis Valentin finishes in third, followed by Daniel Parada, Nando Morena, and Ivan Santamaria in sixth. Thomas Lamanen will finish in seventh place, followed by Tony Richet in eighth. Matthew Adler will finish in ninth, and our final points paying position will go to Race in 10th place. Josh, what a Grand Prix.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant. It was definitely a battle of strategy. It was a battle of some key overtakes made in crucial points. And of course, that VSC really tilted the game on its head. I still believe Timo Zelenkovic might have been able to get away with the win because the two cars picked up a 3-second time penalty. It's all about consistency. I'm not sure how many times we've got to say this, but again, it was a brilliant round here for round 3 at the Monaco Grand Prix. And Timo Zelenkovic probably would have to be go for a driver of the day. He kept his composure, he kept cool under pressure, and that's exactly what you need around Monaco. Keeping it clean, just making sure you're not going to be put up in any awkward and horrible situations you might find yourself in. As we're now just waiting for that Haas car of Aljat to come across the line. There we go. Lovely stuff. But, yes, brilliant race around Monaco. It was more traditional, and I do believe we might have to thank the dry weather for that, making sure that we're keeping a couple of these drivers honest. And Tony Richet picked up the drive for a day there. Again, another great candidate, showing great defensive ability. But Alex, who are you going to have to give it to?
I'm going to give it to Zelenkovic. I think he had a great race. I think he absolutely proved his position here at F3, picked up a huge victory, which, of course, early on in the year can still mean you can battle for that world title. You know, it's not the end of the world in the third round. Of course, we have a different point system here in PSGL, but a big win there for Zelenkovic and for Alpine from third on the grid to victory. You might say it's because of time penalty, you might say because it's the virtual safety car, but he had to be there at the end, and he certainly was.
Absolutely, and to run you through the finishing order for one last time here, we've got Timo Zelenkovic picking up the win from starting P3, showing pole position isn't everything around Monaco. Then we've got Legend Rosenberg, started P2, finished P2, Louis Valentin, started on pole, falls down to P3, obviously the VSE having a great role in that, Daniele Pirodi staying in P4, Nando Moreira P5, Ivan Santamaria making up a couple places to P6, Thomas Lamanen into P7, Tony Richet into P8, Matthew Adler into P9, Race into P10, Bogdan Moldovan into P11, Alexander Dimas into P12, Simeon Violo in P13, Aljat in P14, Valentino Labella in 15th, JS8 in 16th, Modesto Mena in 17th, and then we start looking at these drivers who end up having a collision around Monaco. It's not unheard of. It can be very strict around here, given how close the barriers are, with Tope in 18th, Benzoni in 19th, and Tom Roberts in 20th after that unfortunate lap on shunt. And you've got to start thinking, perhaps, if he was able to stay within this pack, within that lead group, he could have really thrown a spanner in the works for a lot of these drivers.
Yeah, he certainly could have done, and we almost got that huge spanner in the works, but of course, Mr. Zelenkovic walked away with the big win, and
Absolutely.
he certainly deserved it. Now, Josh, before we obviously jump over to any interviews,
Yes.
I believe I've just asked the question. We do have Rosenberg waiting in the commentary box. I was going to do a cut to an ad. But should we do interviews first, or do you want to just jump straight to the ad first?
Nah, we'll bring him in. We'll bring him in. People want to hear what the legend has to say.
Well, let's bring in Mr. Rosenberg. I'll bring him into the right com box, shall I? That'll probably help. Mr. Rosenberg, how you doing?
Fine.
Good. I'm being very formal today. That's why I said Mr. Congratulations on your P2. I'm sure you probably would have wanted the victory, but unfortunate 3-second time penalty and a very unfortunate virtual safety car as well. Talk us through that race.
Yeah. Firstly, GG's to the podium sitters. It was a great race, hard race, but obviously the virtual safety car did not really help my race. I just got stuck behind them, and it's so hard to overtake here. But I think I had the pace to even gap him if I could overtake him somewhere. But I didn't manage, and for the last 10 laps I thought, like, why risk it? Just, be safe on a P2, get some points on the board, and yeah, go next week again.
Absolutely. I mean, Legend, it was a great race. You showed your prowess, keeping calm under pressure. But was there any point where you started to think maybe the driver behind you, the Aston Martin, chasing on a fresh set of medium tyres, could potentially be a risk to you? We saw him try and replicate the move you did on him slightly earlier in the race. Was there any worry there?
Yeah, there's always a worry if someone is behind you on a fresher tire and a better tire. But from practice, obviously, I've practiced with Louis. We're in the same team, so I've known that I could have kept them behind on a fresh tire. So I wasn't too worried about it. But you know, anything can happen. But it's Monaco. It's easier to defend than to overtake. So yeah, in the beginning of the race, it wasn't my favor to overtake. But late in the race, I didn't manage. But you know, I'm happy with the P2. For my first race of the season, I didn't race the first 2 races, but yeah, let's just keep this momentum up and yeah, hopefully win a championship.
Absolutely. Looking forward to next week, right? It's a bit more of a traditional track. Of course, it'll be Austria. How are your thoughts and feelings going into Austria?
Austria is usually a good track for me, but Austria is always chaos. Anything can happen there. There can be drama on the last laps, safety cars again, people hitting each other, penalties. It's always chaos. So I'm not sure about it. Usually I have good pace, but a little bit bad luck there. But hopefully I can turn it around next week and win that one.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for this interview, Legend. It's been awesome getting to see your insight about Monaco Grand Prix. And once again, congratulations on your P2. Let's see if you're able to make it back-to-back podiums at Austria.
Thank you. Thank you for comms.
Thank you. Thank you. Honestly, lovely bloke. I told you.
He's a nice guy.
Veteran.
He's
He's
a nice
lovely.
guy.
Of course he is.
We got no one else, unfortunately, for interviews today.
No, unfortunately not.
Which is a shame. But
One of
as you
those.
mentioned, just to Mr. Rosenberg, I think he was very surprised when I called him Mr. Rosenberg. Maybe
Yes.
that's his father. It's probably his
Oh,
father,
well,
Mr. Rosenberg. You never know. But we go, of course, next Thursday. I got it right this time.
Yes.
Thursday at 7 p.m. We are back, me and Josh, as always, for Austria, the Austrian Grand Prix in the Austrian Alps. I don't know if it is in the Austrian Alps, but it's
not quite.
it's-
I don't think
the
so.
Styrian Alps, isn't it?
Yes.
Yes, it's Styrian Alps. In a more traditional circuit, another short circuit in terms of lap time. So we're going to be there at Thursday. Tune in for that. We're having an exciting title battle after a good Monaco Grand Prix. Josh, any last words before we end off today?
Yes, no, it's been absolutely fantastic. It's been key to watch these drivers evolve and sort of take on a new challenge at a new track, which is slightly different from the traditional norms. The closest thing we've probably got on this calendar to it could potentially be Azerbaijan. But again, very different, very technical tracks. Beautiful to see these drivers adapt to it. It'll be even more interesting seeing how they're going to adapt over to Austria. But in case you lot are still watching at home, you've still got us on volume, and you're wondering, well, what do I do now? The stream's ending. We've got the F2 and the F4 stream going, and dare I say, there's some brilliant drivers over there as well. Divisions, all these drivers are so close to one another pace-wise. You're guaranteed for some brilliant racing here, there, and everywhere. So go hop over to them, and don't forget to say F3 sent you. But other than that, I feel like that's it, Alex.
I think that's it. I think that's it for our stream today. So thank you all very much for joining us. Hope you've enjoyed the race as much as we have. And we'll be back next Thursday at 7 p.m. Here live on PSGL's YouTube channel for F3.
We'll see you then. Goodbye.
Bye.
on the left-hand side. Hugs the apex, gets on the power nicely, and that is job done. Jarno up here now to the line.